While everybody else is grinding the combine, analyzing every rookie and their 40 time and their body fat percentage and their 3 cone, we're going to figure out how to win this best ball tournament. The big board on Underdog and early NFL best ball championship on Drafters, or really any other best ball or fantasy football tournament that is out right now. There are some strategies both myself and Rob have got at the top of our minds that we think can take us to the top of these tournaments. Pretty excited to break those down, and then we'll hop into a big board draft to put them into practice.
I'm just really glad you're not making us do a spike week combine. I don't want people seeing me do like the 5-cone drill and know my body fat percentage. And although me catching footballs used to be a thing of beauty, is what I will say.
I find that hard to believe. But this is coming from someone who played defensive back and has dealt with the typical, oh, that's why you play DB, right? That's everybody says. He can't catch you. If you can't catch, you play, corner or safety. If you can catch, you play wide receiver. And I played DB. So maybe I'm just a little salty about the whole catching passes thing. But I have found this, just like this whole week, to be funny. I am very into the whole prospect, evaluation. I love it's a lot of fun looking at the new rookies. I watch a lot of college football and all that. So I think it's great to dive into all that. But I feel like this year, with the emergence of best ball in these early best ball tournaments, the world is like losing their minds over being, scouts and breaking down all these rookies to a degree that we've probably never seen before. And I think what gets lost at this time of the year, we'll definitely talk about it, and others will over the course of the summer when we have Best Ball Mania and DraftKings tournaments and all of that, is most of the conversation right now seems to be literally just this player or that player, or this rookie or that rookie, and that's fine. That's all well and good. But I think there's a lot of strategies we can implement, like from a roster construction perspective, or, typical zero RB, or one we'll talk about today, late round quarterback or early quarterback, or right elite tight end. All that conversation doesn't happen at this time of year. And it might be more important right now because honestly, we can pretend that we know we know a lot about these players. We can guess where Aaron Rodgers is going to land. We can guess about who the best rookies are going to be, but we don't really know. We don't really know that much. But what we do know is what our opponents are doing. And we do know, what the player pool looks like and how we can construct teams, especially within 20 rounds. And so I thought it was important to dive into a little bit of that around the big board in these early tournaments, because I think that's really where our edge, like our biggest edge. It's not that we don't have an edge in maybe some of the rookie stuff and all of that, but I think we have pretty big edges in some of these other spaces. And that's probably what we should be focused on, rather than should you draft, there's conversation in the Discord right now. Should you draft Cortland Sutton or Kadarius Toney? Like, honestly, it doesn't really matter. Should you draft A.T. Perry or Cedric Tillman with your last pick? Like, I don't know, flip a coin. But there's some other things I think that actually provide a distinct edge, and hopefully we can find some good ones today.
Can we add to our tools a coin for people to flip so that whenever they're like in these situations, it's like, flip this coin, and then like my face will be on one side and your face will be on the other? I think that's the way we do it.
That's a great. That is a phenomenal idea. This will be the player selection tool, right? We're all tools about all these other things, roster construction, but we do need to provide people, some really quality insight on how do you decide between these two players, and it's pretty much always just flip a fucking coin. Flip a coin.
That's what it boils down to, right? So we're gonna get into these strategies real quick. Just not that I want to dive deep into the rookie thing. It's more so the other side. Do you think people are more in on rookies this year than in the past because it feels like there's a lot more dusty veterans like than in years past? Like a lot of the running backs, it might be just because of some of the uncertainty with them. So I think people are just like naturally gravitating that way because of all the other uncertainty. Usually people feel safe with those type of players.
Right.
And they're not safe with the rookies. And it's like, well, if I'm not safe with anybody, then I guess I'll go younger, is kind of what I think some people are doing this year, particularly.
It's definitely a good question, because I think in years past, the whole best ball space has clearly come very, very far. And in years past, we just had kind of the wash, rinse, repeat veteran guys that you could argue maybe got a little too discounted at this point in the season, when, you know, some of the rookies and all of that came about. But I think it was a little less so, right? We just locked in kind of the same guys who went in the first 3 or 4 rounds every single year, right?
Yep.
We had to argue against Leonard Fournette and James Conner and those guys last year, because we just said, oh my God, look how awesome they were last year. Let's plop them in the second, third round. We're good to go. The field is much more hip, I think, to a lot of these issues this year. It's also very unique. I mean, Kamara might be in jail, you know, like there's some, you know, Fournette just got cut, right? There's a lot of issues. We've talked about it before with the veteran, particularly running backs, but some of the receivers too. I mean, a lot of the elite, air quotes, elite receivers are getting older as well. And so people, like, how do you kind of get on the opposite side of those guys? At this point in the year, it's the rookies, because you can, pick a rookie. We can pipe dream about the upside for them, right? Because it's a total mystery box. I mean, they could literally not play a snap the whole year, or we can tell ourselves they're Justin Jefferson, or, we can, or Ken Walker or whatever. It's so easy to pipe dream about the rookies. So I think, of course, I'm still drafting rookies. No one is saying not to, but I think probably if we really looked at it from a macro level, the overall rookie class might be a little overvalued right now relative to maybe what they should be. And I think that's something we can take advantage of.
I agree. Can't wait to draft Jarvis Landry in this draft. That's what this all boils down to.
Taking it a little too far the other way. I think that's kind of like the people who wouldn't give up on Gronk last year. It's like Gronk announced his retirement, and you'd hop in, every other draft, someone would still take him in the 12th round. It's like, he's not retiring. He's coming back to play. Like, the guy's doing commercials. He lost like 40 pounds, and people are still drafting Gronk. But the onesie position thing, I think, is one of the big keys that we should talk about today before we get into a draft. I'm going to start with the quarterback side. Like, I kind of like, sorry, this got me. Felix, he had $1 million to burn, so he figured, let's just throw it away on Rob Gronkowski. But the quarterback thing is super interesting to me. We knew this was coming. You and I and others spent the last 6 or 9 months or whatever talking about how the quarterback prices are going to just be totally different than we've seen in 10 years or something like that. And that's absolutely what's happening. I think it's a little bit similar to the rookie thing that we talked about with, there's so much uncertainty at this time of the year with rookies, with free agents, technically we don't even know like where Saquon Barkley is going to get gonna end up. Like, Joe Mixon could get cut. We don't know what's up with Alvin Kamara, etc. So the quarterbacks are just the certainty at the top of draft. So I do think that pushes them up a little bit. I suspect they might fall a smidge over the course of the season when we actually know who's playing on what team and where rookies got drafted and all of that. But where all of these elite guys are going, and then even where that next tier of guys are going, I can't believe that, like, people are still just jamming the elite quarterbacks to this level. I really think that right now, maybe this won't be the case in the summer for Best Ball Mania or whatever. Right now, like, I'd just be hammering late round quarterback. Like, because you have the same things you can pipe dream about with all the rookies and free agents and everything at the other positions with a whole lot more certainty. Like, Bryce Young is not the level of risk that a non-Bijan running back prospect is. He's going to be the top quarterback picked. He's going to get to play. Like, will he be good? I have no idea. He's apparently like the size of one of my dogs. So that's a small concern, but you don't have any concerns about him playing or any of that. And he goes really late for like a relatively elite level NFL prospect. And even the other guys who, look, I'm not really a very big CJ Stroud fan. I've also made it known I'm not a Will Levis fan. I do like Anthony Richardson, but set aside your personal beliefs about those players, as prospects. We probably have 4 quarterbacks going in the first round, and like 3 of them are free, and the number 1 overall pick is like really not very expensive, and but the quarterback position is crazy expensive.
Yeah.
Right? People are taking guys at the 1-2 turn, and right, wrong, or indifferent, we're not here to argue that. But if all of our opponents are spending more than they've ever spent at those positions, and we have the concerns around running back, right? The whole middle rounds are littered with these landmines of running backs and probably some landmines of wide receivers. So how do we avoid that? It's by smashing all the superstars who right? Like, you don't feel bad about Jamar Chase. You don't feel bad about even like Devontae Adams. He's Devontae freaking Adams. He's going to be fine. Jonathan Taylor has fallen a little bit. Tell me what has really changed drastically from when Jonathan Taylor was in the 101 discussion last year to now. There are changes, but he's still Jonathan freaking Taylor in probably a better position than he was in maybe the last 2 years. There's all these guys. I think that our edge right now in this limited small time span is all these, like, taking shots on these guys, right? Obviously, I'm drafting Trey Lance. If you don't like Lance, there's like a myriad of all these later guys, and you can find ways to mix and match them really well. Like, say, take three of these guys and fit the like kind of like Lance. I know Pat Carine has concerns about like Lance maybe losing that job later in the year. But you also now have no concerns about Lance playing for the first at least 8 to 10 weeks or something like that, unless the Niners just lose a bunch of games. And so you have this really high upside quarterback that goes pretty cheap. You can pair him with, you want to take the Rodgers or Carr thing, which is a pretty, not high upside, but comfy pick at their cost. You want to toss in Bryce Young. You want to toss in Will Levis or Anthony Rich. Like, you can pair all of these. And it's like literally all the archetypes that we want, and you blend them all together, and you can get the superstars at the positions where this is the absolute peak level of uncertainty and risk around those other positions. And I can just win running back and wide receiver and probably tight end and still have like legit upside at quarterback. It's not like August, where when we're talking about late round, it's like Mac Jones and, and like Jimmy G and those guys in August and September. Right now, there's real upside back there. So that's been probably my biggest takeaway so far in the big board and on drafters as well.
So I'm sort of the same, but with a little bit of a variation on that, where we're talking about the quarterback position, and we knew that they were going to push up like, the Mahomes and the Hurts and the Allen. I'm shocked at how much some of these other guys have been pushed up, and you're seeing like Burrow go super early. Yep. Like so to me, I'm almost taking, like, we talk about drafting with a barbell approach, like your teams. I'm almost drafting quarterbacks with like a barbell approach, where like occasionally I'm going to take one of the top 3 guys in the second round because I think their value over a guy that's only a round or 2 behind them is so much greater, right? So if I don't get one of those 3 guys, then I'm just definitely going strictly late round quarterback is my approach. But to your point, if I don't, this feels so gross to say based on the way that we typically draft. When I don't leave the first or second round right now with a running back, I'm like, oh, it's tough sledding on this team, probably, most likely. So yeah, if you're stacking like a Stephon Diggs and a Josh Allen, it does feel like you're giving up a ton. But I still like taking the approach of drafting the top 3 guys and kind of just not taking the Joe Burrows and the Trevor Lawrences of the world as much as I want to. It's not that we don't want them. It's like that cost. It's just so, oh my God, it hurts the soul to see. It's like Burrow and Lawrence, they're great, but where they're going in these drafts, it's like,
And Herbert, again, like, I know there's at least a couple rounds difference between Herbert and the elite guys, but like, I don't know how Justin Herbert is an incredible real life football player. Same thing with Burrow is one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch. I think he's probably, maybe until this year when some of the idiot talking heads were like saying he's already better than Mahomes, those guys should, be banned from sports media. But maybe up until that point, he was probably a little underrated for just how good he actually is at real life NFL football. But what more do we need to see, particularly from a guy like Herbert, to say like, we just can't keep spending 4th round picks on this guy? You know what I mean? There are some of the best wide receivers and running backs in the NFL, or at least from a fantasy perspective, the most upside, right? Outside of, the first round is just very different than everywhere else, particularly this year. But you get in that second through fourth, fifth round, those top QBs go off the board. Like, I just can't. And maybe I'll be wrong about Justin Fields. I can't believe, why is Justin Fields go in the 30s and, like ahead of Lamar Jackson? And I'm not really particularly drafting Lamar either because of a lot of this, what we're talking about here. But I just feel like exactly what you said, everybody from Burrow almost to like even still through like Dak, but definitely through Lawrence. There's Burrow, Fields, Lamar, Herbert, Lawrence. You could maybe make a case for Lamar and his upside being warranted up there. And I think that that's generally fair, although all the reports coming out of Baltimore just today don't give you the warm and fuzzies about Lamar even going back there if every player seems to hate everything about the Ravens. But I totally agree with you that if I'm going to spend one of those premium picks, top 5 round pick or something like that, just do it in the second with Mahomes, Allen, or Hurts. Don't do it in the third with Joe Burrow, right? Yeah. Because like you said, the gap between what they are as fantasy assets is not wide enough in ADP. The ADP does not represent what the actual gap is. But that's also what I feel about the late round quarter. When you start to match all this up and you say, well, there's late round quarterbacks that are going to be the Daniel Jones and the Tuas and Lawrence of last year. Though it's going to happen. Like that, these guys are going to pop up. Do I know who it's going to be? Like, it could be Will Levis. I think he sucks. I could be wrong. It could be Will Levis, and he ends in a great spot, and he runs a little more, and blah, blah, blah. But those guys are going to pop up, and it's like I'm drafting rookie wide receivers later there who, like, again, I could tell myself this, right? It's like, what was it, Family Guy, or what was it? It's like, what's in the, I'm going to take the mystery box, It's like, because it could be anything, and it's like, but like I don't need that level of mystery of Cedric Tillman, right? Or even the guys that people like. Like, I really like Zay Flowers. I really like Josh Downs and that. But like, we're paying a cost for the hype of the receivers and the running backs. And I mean, look, I think back to the damn trap that I fell in last year. Like, look at a guy like Kyron Williams at this point. He last year, he ended up testing, he's literally, I think I could run the 40 still at 34 faster than he ran it at the combine last year. He just tested horribly. So he totally tanked, but we were certain that he was a good like 11th round pick last year, was like the general sentiment, that he went there the whole time until the combine. And then look what happens. He and many other guys, Isaiah Spiller was, everybody loved. Isaiah could even be a boat. Yes, exactly. Family Guy. Thank you. Boat is a boat, but the mystery box could be anything. Thank you. Even a boat. Exactly. That's what the rookies are right now. And that's okay. I want the mystery box too, because the mystery box could be a boat. But I don't want to like ignore the context of all these drafts, which is like, there's a mystery box of the quarterbacks, but the floor, right? There's going to be something in that box. Right? Is it awesome, or is it, something from the dollar store? I don't know, but there could be literally nothing in the box of the rookie wide receivers and the running backs. We just have an overconfidence in those prospects at those positions, and the hit rates. Think about the hit rates for real life football and how low they are. You could hit in real life football on one of those players and they still suck for fantasy. Yep. That happens all the time. So I just think it's a really, really distinct edge. And we could probably do it at tight end too. I think people are pushing up a lot of tight ends that don't deserve it. Dawson Knox again. I don't know. I assume it's just the Bills stacks. People want to get Bills stacks. And so Dawson Knox is the guy that they love to take. But like, why does Dawson Knox go whatever in the 9th round again? And we have rookies, and I know people hate rookie tight ends, but we have really good rookie tight end prospects and some other guys, whether they are free agents or guys who have free agents on their team, or opportunity is going to be there for some late round tight ends. It's like, dude, just let me load up with 3 quarterback, 3 tight end teams. If you want to throw a 4th on, by all means. And then like, I don't have to worry about like Darius Slayton and like, I don't want to worry about those guys. I can get upside from the quarterbacks and tight ends and get the best running back and wide receiver rooms in every draft I'm in.
I think that the tight end thing goes back to like regular fantasy football too, where everyone's in like a home league and you watch some of the people that you draft with. And I'm not saying it's everyone that's drafting right now, but I still think people have this mentality where like they need their starting lineup. So like they're
Yeah.
like in that headspace, like I have 4 running backs, I have 5 wide receivers, I have a quarterback. I don't have a tight end. I need to get that tight end. And I know it's like level 1 thinking, but I still think people in their brain do that. Not all of us, of course, probably not most of the people in this chat, but a lot of people are still drafting that just draft for fun. And they're like, well, I need a tight end. Dawson Knox, he caught some touchdowns at the end of the season. I'll grab Dawson Knox, right? And for me, it's like, yeah, I'll just take 4 tight ends, especially like in these big board drafts where we're getting 20 picks. Like, give me 4 tight ends like towards the end, and I'll just, close my eyes, throw a dart, and hope that one of these guys is hitting week 15, 16, 17 next year. So we got to remember who we're drafting with sometimes. Like, yes, smarter people probably earlier, but there's still people that are doing this for fun.
Yeah, Andrew brings up. To be clear, I'm still not a fan of the 4 tight end thing, but with 20 picks, with the way that ADP has kind of played itself out so far, I have definitely taken I haven't drafted very many big boards, to be totally clear. But I'm gonna draft some more here, definitely before it fills. And I think I might just jam like pretty much all late round quarterback, late round tight end. And, if it fails, it fails, whatever. But I would be willing to take that 4th one in this as opposed to the summer when we get to 18 rounds. Like, I definitely don't really want to be taking that. And there's just the landscape changes once we know where everybody's playing, once we know where every rookie got picked, right? Where all the free agents land. It just changes even more so than just 18 rounds. So, couple comments I wanted to hit on while we're talking about some of the quarterbacks and such. Sacrilegious says, can someone explain to me how the ceiling case for Lawrence is any different than the guys who go 5 rounds later, like Dak, Tua, etc.? I would say the ceiling, I think the argument is more that the median case is like really similar for like Lawrence probably projects almost the same as that from a median projection standpoint to Dak, Tua, and those guys there. I do think you're paying for a ceiling that's probably pretty unlikely, but I think the step forward he made in terms of real life NFL football last year, the situation is about as good as any quarterback can have. It is way better than Dak's situation. And, I don't know about Tua. It's about the same. The weapons are awesome. Ingram is getting franchised. So they got everything back and added Calvin Ridley.
Yep.
Calvin Ridley. It's a loaded situation with a great coaching staff. And so the ceiling case is like, he's a top 5 real life NFL quarterback. And he's like, like Burrow, basically. He would be like Burrow. So I think he deserves to go ahead of those guys, but I haven't drafted him yet. So I totally agree with the premise that you're paying for this kind of like really low end outcome where he is that good. And I'm not sure that, it's definitely not worth that cost to me.
And where do you see these Jaguars prices in about 2 months?
People love them some Jaguars, which is really funny because we'll go over a lot of the offseason. So this is what happened a little bit, maybe more so with running backs, but it definitely happens with wide receivers too, right? Where people will, when it makes sense, argue about, well, how many targets is he going to get? He's playing with, Stephon Diggs, right? How can you draft Gabe Davis? He's got Diggs, he's got these other guys. How many targets is he actually going to get? And then we'll do the opposite. Well, look how talented the Jaguars. Look at the upside of Calvin Ridley. Look at the upside of, of Evan Ingram. It's like, well, they have probably more target competition and more uncertainty around, the pecking order and everything like that. So it's funny to see that play out sometimes, how the fantasy community kind of goes back and forth on some of those situations. And they definitely love the Jaguars.
Yeah, I think we predicted this towards the middle of last year where we knew that the Jaguars were just going to be so steamed up, and it's happened faster than I anticipated is what I will say. I thought this was going to be like they start sort of middle, but people were just already on it. And it's just, you get Evan Ingram back today, and it's going to be tough to get any of the Jaguars. It's going to be a reverse for me probably, where I was in on the Jaguars passing game last year,
Yeah.
but out on ETN. I'm probably going to be drafting more ETN than anybody on the Jaguars this year because I think his value is going to be better. Like,
Me too.
but that's the way I look at these things. Like, I'm looking at like what is my best value in this spot. Also, have you had the Elixir of the Gods yet?
This is the Elixir of the Gods.
This is the sour apple Gatorade.
Sour apple Gatorade. So
Yeah.
sour apple is very. Are you a big sour apple guy? Because it's one of those to me that I really like it in very small doses.
Yes.
Like very small doses.
So you can't have more than like a glass or half a glass of this, and it tastes exactly like the Jolly Rancher, the green apple Jolly Rancher, but it is amazing. And I also cannot wait to mix it with vodka.
I'm trying to cut down. I think I consumed enough vodka in Nashville to kill a small village or a herd of elephants or something.
Yeah,
like
our table had quite a few vodka glasses on it after that night.
There's also which I don't remember a lot of, but there is also a bunch of photos that I won't mention some of the photos that you share with me that I also took towards the end of the night, which it doesn't have anything to do with you and I, but I'm not going to out anybody who did some funny things. But my wife is taking pictures for close, like kind of the end of the Super Bowl when we were still at the first bar. And it's literally nothing but us doing shots. It's like every picture every picture is a new group of people cheersing or whatever for 2 hours. So needless to say, yeah, that was a rough Monday. Was there anything else kind of before we start to get into it, Jeff? The big two things definitely that stuck out to me were the quarterback thing and the tight end thing, which is really just a microcosm of the player pool, right? Because we talked about how many issues there are with the running backs and even some wide receivers. Like, dude, once you get past it's almost like the first 3 rounds. Like even you dip into that 4th round, you already start to feel uncomfortable with some of those guys. There are guys we like, but you start to feel uncomfortable. And so I want to get as much talent at running back and wide receiver as I can in those areas where it still exists. And then we have to take scratch off lottery tickets. We have to take mystery boxes. I think we can do it smartly at the onesie positions a little bit better. But is there anything else you've been kind of seeing or implementing that you think is a decent edge in these?
No, I think it's the year of the onesie position and how you attack that. Like it's to me so different than the last few years in terms of the way things are breaking with these positions. So how you approach that is, so let's just flip to this side. Are you ever, so we're talking about maybe going elite quarterback sometimes. I'm never going elite tight end. I'm never grabbing Kelsey, like, because I just want the other guys around him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I'm not grabbing Travis Kelsey. So I'm always going like late round tight end for the most part. Maybe I'll grab a Kyle Pitts here and there.
Yeah.
I'm not going out of my way to do it though. Like it has to make sense. And yeah, I think most of my teams have been late round tight end, like 3 or 4 just dart throws at the end. Whereas like the other one, I'll take a Mahomes, I'll take an Allen, I'll take a Hurts here and there. So I guess that's the way I'm looking at it.
I also think tight end might be even, I don't want to say more so, but it might be more so than quarterback, where I think it's kind of really inefficiently priced. Like when I do our rankings at Spike Week, I adjust. I try to, as much as possible, adjust for ADP. So like there will be guys who I literally won't draft that maybe are actually like if I just hand wrote my rankings, guys would be lower, and I kind of try to balance it out, because if you don't balance it out right, then you have guys who are going in the 20th round. You have like 8 rounds higher than ADP or whatever, and I don't want that necessarily if people are going to look at the rankings. But I think tight end is probably where, like, dude, I don't really get it. I don't really get why. I know people are scared of the rookies, but Michael Mayer is like closer to a Kyle Pitts level tight end prospect. I know that's crazy. We need to see the athleticism. Maybe he'll be big and slow, and that'll be a foolish statement. But in terms of production and everything like that, he really is kind of closer to a Kyle Pitts level prospect. And nobody wants to draft him. And Dalton Kincaid is everybody's favorite rookie tight end because he is a really good receiver and whatnot, but he's getting all this hype and he's not very expensive. There's other rookies. We just saw, I don't really like the Bucks given no Tom Brady. We just saw Cam Brate get cut. Cade Otton is totally free. Dalton Schultz might be gone from the Cowboys. We don't know who the next guy is, but whoever the next guy is going to be good for fantasy because Dalton Schultz isn't very good in real life football, and he's been awesome for fantasy. Like I'm just throwing names, Jelani Woods, or pick a Colts tight end. None of them get drafted in the top 200 picks. Like Isaiah Likely. If you like, some people have talked about liking Juwan Johnson in New Orleans. Trey McBride was the number one tight end in Arizona down the stretch. Maybe he just dusts Zach Ertz, right? There's just name after name after name where I'm like, I don't know. These guys all have a bunch of upside. Are we going to hit on all of them? No, that's the issue with late round tight ends, of course. But I think relative to upside and everything, tight ends are probably the most inefficiently priced because people are paying similar to quarterback in that mid tier. You're way overpaying for like a comfort level. Like you said, I got to the 10th round. I don't have a tight end. It's like, all right, let's just take Dawson Knox because I know Dawson Knox is going to play, going to catch a few touchdowns. But like, just because you need the tight end doesn't mean you have to draft the tight end if the landscape doesn't shake out that way. And I think there's just so many names. Like I said, and with 20 rounds, you want to take 4. Definitely, I'm taking 3 tight ends in most drafts. You're probably going to have relatively decent production from one of them. And, God forbid you hit on 2 or 3 and you're just going to dust the field at tight end, spending very, very little on the position.
Yeah. And when we go down to 18 picks, 4 tight ends is probably going to be a 1% thing, maybe for me, somewhere around that landscape. But with the 20 picks, when you're starting to draft guys like the future son of Julio Jones, because there's just no names left, right? Like you're just like, all right, well, I guess I'll take this tight end, and just because I know he's gonna at least like fall down on the field at some point. So yeah, no, I think that's the stuff that people really need to be looking at is these onesie positions and how they're approaching it. And you guys are going to hear about it all off season, not even just from us. I'm imagining that like it's going to be an industry wide thing. But we had it here first, is what I'm going to say.
Yeah, right, exactly. But like, if you look at the chat right now, it's the perfect example of the tight end thing. Like, again, not all these guys are going to hit. Everybody probably has their own favorite flavor, right? It's a little Baskin Robbins. Tight end is a little bit of Baskin Robbins. There's a lot of dudes back there. Everybody has their own flavor that they prefer. In Ferguson, Luke Musgrave, and Waller isn't a late guy, but shit, with Darren Waller round 9 or whatever, it's not Danny McBride, but Trey McBride, right? Okonkwo is back there. And Njoku's not necessarily late, but again, Jelani, everybody's just throwing out their favorite guy. We haven't even hit half the list, and everybody has a different favorite. So that it just tells you how the volume of guys back there that do offer upside and value. Obviously, if they hit, there's a uncertainty around that. But like we said, once you get into like round 4, dude, there's uncertainty everywhere at this time. So how can you navigate the uncertainty to kind of create an edge simply through roster construction? Everybody has to draft mystery boxes. How can you do it in a way that offers you just as much upside as everybody else, but you're maybe baking in some floor? You're baking in, maybe late season, right? You draft some of these rookies at the quarterback and tight end position. They also have the ability to, everybody talks about it with like running backs coming on late in the season for rookies. It could be the same for quarterbacks and definitely for tight ends too. Trey McBride just did it. Isaiah Likely just did it. By the end of the season, they're getting out there. Isaiah Likely and Trey McBride both popped late in the season. That could happen again at the tight end position. So I just think it's the best way to kind of really construct your rosters. And then it gives you that flexibility. We don't have to have the 0 RB wars. We don't have to have, do you want to just load up on some early running backs and then come back to your wide receivers? Go ahead. You want to go 0 RB? Go ahead. This allows you to do it. The late round quarterbacks and the late round tight ends allow you to do whatever the hell you want at running back and wide receiver, and you're going to be strong. You're going to be strong at those 2 positions, no matter how you slice it.
Congrats to Bryan Adams for being one of the first people to say that he could see David Njoku going crazy this year. So the football cycle is now complete. We have said everything that you're supposed to say to start the football year with the Njoku thing. The other thing with the tight end, just real quick, throw out Travis Kelce last year. And I think there was one game that Evan Ingram outscored every tight end from the rest of the league combined, right? Like that's how bad the position was. So that's why you want to take the shot at the late round tight ends, because in a vacuum, it doesn't matter, right? Until it matters, week 17. So just get yourself the most shots of it mattering is the way that I kind of look at that. It's just the position is so god awful.
So bad. It is funny. I know it's a very good. We'll clip that for me saying you can simply win through roster construction. But it is kind of funny because that's mostly bullshit during the actual draft cycle, which is why I like to make fun of it. Obviously, you have a at any time, if you're a good drafter, you have a relative edge in roster construction. But at the end of the day, nowadays pretty much everybody knows how to construct rosters, right? Everybody knows how to draft a 0 RB team. Everybody that isn't paying the rake, right? The people who don't know how to construct a team, right? The people that draft 6 quarterbacks, every peer-to-peer gambling thing has somebody paying the rake. That's just kind of how it goes, right? That's why a lot of people talk about going to the places where the competition is weakest, because there's more people paying the rake. And on Underdog is the fewest people, especially drafting in February and March. Pretty much everybody you get into a draft with, generally speaking, knows how to construct the team. Where I think we can gain an edge from roster construction, which is what nobody actually ever talks about, is how do you get right? It's not just I have an edge in structure. Okay, how? Like specifically, what are you doing with your roster construction that gives you an edge? And nobody ever can really answer that. I think these roster construction edges will not be the case when we're streaming in June, July, August, because the landscape is different in a big board pre-combine tournament than it is, in Best Ball Mania. And how you can gain an edge through structure is not just I drafted 2 quarterbacks and 7 running backs, whatever. I think late round, specifically the late round onesie positions, is a structural edge in this one. It's not just drafting 3 quarterbacks, right? It's not just doing 0 running back or whatever. I don't give a shit if you prefer 0 running back or robust running back. I think that they can both be edges, because the edge is not in that structure. The edge is in the market is wrong about how they're attacking quarterbacks and tight ends, right? The edge is because our opponents are doing something wrong, not because we're constructing rosters like everybody else. We're actually constructing rosters the opposite of how most of our opponents are doing it.
No, I completely agree with that. We should jump into a draft and show everybody. We should win this tournament on March 2nd. And then every year reconvene and win this tournament on March 2nd. Is the way we should do this. It would really be something that we could push. Be like, hey, the March 2nd draft's coming up, and you know what happens every year on March 2nd, we win the big board. All right.
See, I like that plan better than the plan I put in place last year, which was not make the finals on Underdog at all. That was that was not a great plan.
Yeah, I didn't make the Best Ball Mania finals. Made all the other finals, and then
I'm still tilting the finals. I'll be perfectly honest with you. Three like totally healthy, fully live, good matchups and everything, loaded teams on DraftKings in some of the higher, smaller field stuff, like literally the finals I wanted to make and everything. And then the Jags, right? The Jags rested everybody. They pulled all the starters in the second quarter. Hurts ended up not playing. There was just an absolute shit show in week 17 that it's going to take a while to get over, I think.
Looks like we're drafting with a lot of newbies in this draft. I only see 137 red badges.
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh my God. 7. Yeah. And definitely a lot of names that I know. I do kind of like that we got the 10 spot, because the end of round 1 is it's because it's kind of tough. Once it's you all get I've been getting the first whatever, right? You're getting into. I still feel pretty comfortable with Devontae, but you could make a case that even Devontae and Diggs are not that cozy. But I feel okay about them. But it's like, of course, I don't dislike AJ Brown or CD or JT Bijan, etc. But like you talked about a lot last year, it's like I'm just kind of taking them because I don't know who else to take, as opposed to, like, just give me all the Cooper Kupp. I love Cooper Kupp. I want him on my teams, whatever. it feels like I'm just taking the guys that are there because I don't know. I don't really have anything that jumps out to be there. Like I said, I really do like Bijan and them, but it's not like I'm not like pounding the table for anybody there specifically.
Yeah, CeeDee Lamb is just that guy that is always going to be at that, 11, 12, 13 spot. He's never going to move up, never going to move down. One of those situations.
Yep.
I wanted to draft from the front because I haven't been getting a lot of the front end drafts, and I just kind of wanted to see what we could construct together through that. Because I do think that the 1, 2, and 3 can be interesting conversations with Jefferson, Chase, and McCaffrey. Ooh, Bijan goes 4 overall.
M Jerky, show yourself. Are you in here? It's hard to find people higher on Bijan than me, but I see every draft I get into, someone takes him in like the top 5 or something. I love Bijan. Bijan over Cooper Kupp feels rich to me, very rich.
Who do you think? We'll talk about it in a second, and I don't want to get into this conversation too deep, but we'll talk about it. Let's go through our picks after Herzig takes Alvin Kamara here at the 9 overall.
Tough day for Herzig. Lenny got cut, and Kamara might be going to prison. Like, just tough for the guys that people have been drafting for a long time. So it's definitely Devontae here for me, but I'm willing to do something different as well if you prefer.
No, I think it's Devontae. I mean, it's one of the 2 top wide receivers that are left. And I don't think AJ Brown's down far enough on the draft board to pick him to try to get like a slightly unique combination.
Right.
Obviously.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So
I do think you can do what will, I don't think you have to force it too much just quite yet, because I do think we're going to get, once the combine goes through and we start to get a little more about maybe where some guys land, ADP will shake up a little bit. But, you could do something like Amon-Ra and Waddle, or Amon-Ra and Garrett Wilson or something, because you're never going to get that. I don't really love Saquon. I know some people are still really high on Saquon. I don't really love it. It might be Garrett Wilson for me here. I could be talked into T. I don't know what you prefer.
You're not. I like Garrett a lot. I like Garrett Wilson a ton this year. So
let's do Garrett Wilson, and just because I do like the goddamn mystery box, but there's a little mystery box upside to these 2 guys both. Like, if let's say in this scenario, Rodgers goes to Vegas and like Carr goes to the Jets, you're like total Yahtzee. I mean,
that's what we want.
Total
with this
Yahtzee
team, for sure. Because he can't be the other way. It's not like Carr's going to the Raiders.
Right. But that's what you're playing. That's what you're playing for, obviously, in this. And you have outs, Rodgers can go to the Jets and someone else can go to the Raiders. That still is fine for Devontae. But like the total stone cold nuts between these 2 guys. And I do like kind of pairing things like that. Right.
What are your
free agent or rookie and then draft accordingly as if that situation played out?
So where we're talking about like these mid-round quarterbacks and guys that actually might be undervalued a little bit, and we brought up Lamar, are you looking at a team like this where you're starting Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson being like, this is the Lamar team because there's 2 outs right there? Maybe the Jets are the one that he's more so talked about, but the Raiders could be a dark horse for him to go to if they're going to freaking pay him. I don't think that's going to happen, but now that we've started Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson, we have 2 outs for Lamar. Would you be interested in doing something like that, or are you still out on the quarterback at that spot?
I mean, I'm definitely not. Lamar is the one guy that I think you can make a case for in that tier, because I think he's the one who actually has the upside to be with the Hurtses and Mahomes and stuff. I still don't totally love it. There is a relative risk as well for him with just the fact that we don't know where he's playing. If he goes back to Baltimore, they don't really have a lot of outs to upgrade their wide receivers. There's no good free agents. I guess they can get a rookie, but like how much is, like a 2nd round rookie gonna totally change the landscape of their offense? And so he'll be fine. But I definitely think you want to do it smartly with Lamar. Like you said, let's play out Lamar to the Jets. Low probability, but if it happens, it's total wheels up for Lamar. I mean, he would just crush on the Jets. I also like Lamar to the Falcons a little bit, running him with Pitts or London, because I think that's like a super dreamy fit. I mean, Arthur Smith tried to do it with Marcus Mariota, and Mariota was like not the stone worst fantasy quarterback, even though he's horrible in real life.
Yeah.
Imagine Lamar trying to do that. Like, he would absolutely dominate.
The fastest he ran, honestly, is when he left the team.
Yeah. That is definitely true. Him and Derek Carr were racing out the doors.
All right, so we're gonna be on the clock here. Are we just doing it? We're just grabbing the top here.
I do like ETN.
I'm all for it.
See, this is part of, I know taking 3 skill guys in the first 3 or 4 rounds is not anything groundbreaking, but it's like when you kind of have a plan of attack, where you think the market is wrong. Again, the tight ends and quarterbacks. You don't feel any pressure of taking them early, and you also then don't feel any pressure like when you say I'm going to draft a 0 RB team, right? It's like, I got to take all these wide receivers here, So we would be like, do we take Ridley? I don't really like Ridley. I don't really like Debo, whatever. But when you know that you have this, ace up your sleeve, just take the best player, take the best running back or the best wide receiver, move on.
I almost want to do the Lamar Jackson thing here.
I'm okay doing that.
I think that because I'm just so fine with, like, even if you get unstacked Lamar, it's like, whatevs.
Yeah,
it's fine. Like, I think it's like real safe. DJ Moore would be another guy that
we can take Lamar.
I haven't built a Lamar team yet, so this will be a little bit fun.
Also my first Lamar team.
But he's not going to be Will Fuller. We know he's going to end up somewhere. He is going to play football this year. I can't
I'm not making any fucking guarantees after Will Fuller last year.
I have something coming at some point with Will Fuller to cap off the 2022 season. little tease there. As soon as some weather cooperates around here.
This is another nice thing David says about Lamar and why I think he makes more sense than, right? Like, when you're overpaying for the pocket passer in those areas, it's like, if he's really going to smash, right? If Justin Herbert's really going to smash, some kind of receiver that he's playing with is also probably, like, if Herbert's going to be worth that pick, it's kind of like Mahomes, right? Mahomes' stacks I know they didn't all totally hit last year, but like, why they made sense is if Mahomes is just going to be Mahomes without Tyreek, guys are going to have good games, and they just kind of ping ponged. But like, that's what it is with the pocket passers. With Lamar, it's like, I like single stacking Lamar because he does still have to throw to really access the ceiling, but you don't have to worry about it in these drafts. Just if he falls, you can take him, and that's that.
And he is the guy that I think is mispriced. We see that Fields and Herbert and Burrow, I think we're all ahead of them in terms of like ADP. They're all clustered, but as soon as Lamar signs, he shoots up. Like, it just the way that it's going to happen. So we talk about like these Bengal stacks, and you see Jay Holloman in the second spot. He has the Chase, Higgins, Burrow double, but he had to get him 3 out of the first 4 rounds to get all of them. And it's just, you really need the Bengals to smash, and they probably will. It's just Burrow in the 4th. Oof. Tough scenes at that spot for me.
And I do think there'll be some interesting conversation. I'm definitely not ready for them yet, but there'll be some interesting conversations over the summer about, so we see this play out every year, but we definitely saw this play out this past year where the guys who were overpriced and even still underperformed relative to how we generally assess fantasy performance can still be the guys you want to have in week 17. Mike Evans and such, right? Tom Brady popped off in week 17, and he was shit, honestly, for the whole season in fantasy. I think Burrow kind of falls in that category where I'm not going to go out and say I'm absolutely taking 0, because he's still Joe Burrow and he's throwing to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. He could be the guy that scores 40, just as he did a couple of years ago in week 17. But it changes how much you want to, like, right? It changes your portfolio. It doesn't necessarily change, can I draft any of him, right? And whereas I feel a little bit closer to that, like with Herbert. Maybe I'm just being blind to some unseen upside that he has. But like, I know Burrow does it multiple times a year, goes out, drops 35, 40. So it's just how much do I want to draft of him? God, see, I hate this fucking range.
Yeah, this range
I don't
is
like
gross.
it. I don't like any of these fucking guys.
Yeah, it's pretty gross. Do you want to go Jackson Smith, or would you be more comfortable going like Aaron Jones here?
I don't hate Aaron Jones. Let's do Aaron Jones. I don't know that I've drafted him much either, but he's another one where, like, if you have Lamar, you're waiting on the tight ends. Is Aaron Jones, the second round pick that he's been for 5 years or whatever? No. Is Aaron Jones still like a useful player to have on your fantasy teams? Like, yeah, and he's not some mystery box. You're going to get some good games. He's in a timeshare with AJ Dillon, and there's Jordan Love concerns, but he's going to be productive. He's just a really good football player.
All right, so now we have another gross spot here where we're looking at like Trevor Lawrence, which we're not grabbing, but at the top of the Dalvin Cook.
I do like Hollywood still. If we want to running back Javonte and Dobbins, I like.
Do we like Dobbins with the Lamar grab?
I'm trying to think through. We're betting on Lamar. Well, let's just do Dobbins because I like him, and we only got a few seconds.
I like Dobbins a lot this year, honestly. Coming back, he looked real good down the stretch last year. Yeah. I think he's going to get a massive workload, and I think he is one of the guys that is going to shoot up a couple rounds in the draft board by the time we get to the July, August drafts. You're going to see him probably as a third rounder. I just think that's where you're going to see him settle in. So I have been grabbing some Dobbins because I think the value is tremendous on him right now.
Yep. I agree.
The Javonte stuff, I like Javonte. I mean, obviously I like Javonte, but that injury, still quite worried about what's going to happen with him for this season.
Definitely.
And his price is just so high for that. So I don't know. I'm going to be tiptoeing around him for a little bit.
Right. The nice thing is that I don't want to say it's like completely priced in, right? He's not like going in the 8th or something like that, but we do a lot of the times, see this guy, okay, he's going to start slow. Mm-hmm. So everybody, the guy that we were drafting in the second round last year, who now doesn't have Melvin Gordon around, does have, I believe Chase Edmonds is still under contract, so maybe that's a little bit of a small concern, but like you're getting the same player in the 6th round now that you were drafting in the second round, theoretically in a better spot, knowing now that you're not going to get probably the peak production for the first month or something like that. But if he can, bounce back, he's way, way underpriced. So he has a really wide range, but that's also why he kind of gets dropped into this zone where we're like, ugh, like I don't like, I'm willing to take him because it's kind of this awkward range, as opposed to sometimes you got to pay a premium for those guys coming back off injury. And it's kind of nice that you don't for him.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's just, I see people in the chat saying that they like Hollywood still this year, and I do too, man. I know you do. I just, Cardinals this year just feel like they're going to be an absolute dumpster fire.
He was still productive though when Kyler was hurt down the stretch with frickin' Colt McCoy and these guys, and now Hopkins is going to be gone. Get a little bit of some fresh, a situation theoretically should be better. I don't know that it could get much worse than it's been for them in recent years. And definitely, who knows? Maybe same thing. Kyler comes back after a short little stretch, and Hollywood's just the number one for the Kyler offense. And again, it's in this range, 6th, 7th round. There isn't much there. We talked about the quarterback issues. There's really no tight ends I really want to take there. So I'm pretty cool still taking shots on him.
We see Mixon free falling in this draft, and Herzig just grabs him before us, but that was interesting. Are you looking at Dotson here?
So I want to bring up James Cook. I know that we have 3 running backs already, but we'll be able to draft plenty of wide receiver volume. Some of the news about them really wanting to ramp up his workload lately has me pretty excited about him, although I do like Dotson as well.
Yeah.
Do you have a
I'm fine with Cook. I think Algier is like super interesting
let's
this
take
year.
Dotson, and we got a few picks and see if one of the other two guys. Well, we can. They'll both go
Well,
now, of course.
you know how this goes now.
Yeah, they're both gonna go, but it is
But
what it
I think
is.
you can see like the big dividing line there though, where Cook and Algier, and then it's Sanders and Connor. Right, like that's a huge dividing line for me
Yeah, I
because
agree.
I don't really want Sanders, or I definitely don't want Connor this year by any means.
No, no,
Like
definitely no Connor.
Connor's done. Yeah, see there goes Kick because we talked about him. So we're looking at
oh God.
we're looking at a bunch of shit, to be honest with you.
I think we should. I think we should just take Flowers here.
Yeah,
because there's not like we're obviously
we got to go to the bag. We have to go to the mystery bag.
Yep. But that's doing it when it makes sense, right? Like when there's, I mean, I don't like Miles Sanders. I love Miles Sanders was one of my highest owned players last year, but given his uncertainty, and I don't really think that they care to bring him back. It's not like he was that good. Right. I don't think they have any reason to bring him back. We don't want the quarterbacks. No, thank you on Kamara. No, thank you on Connor. I'm not interested really in paying the premium on Evan Ingram. I know people have brought up Waller. I think we maybe could have done Waller, but again, I don't really want to force the tight end just because like, oh, we don't have one. You know what I mean? Like, let's just keep building up the running backs and wide receivers, and taking the best rookie there, I think is totally fine.
Yeah, and again, Zay Flowers is, although he's a rookie, he is a guy that once he gets drafted, I think he is going up the board as well, a couple
Big
rounds.
Time.
Like
he's going to go in the first round. I think he's going to go in the first round, or has a lot better shot to go in the first round than people think. Mm-hmm. And because he wasn't everybody's favorite guy at the very start of like the draft cycle, he's still a little bit low, right? JSN was the expected guy, and he's obviously crept up, but I think people still haven't quite fully grasped the upside that he brings.
Yeah, so I think you're going to see him jump up in draft. So I like taking Zay Flowers. There's certain rookies that I still think you can get tons of value on up in these, like Jahmyr Gibbs was another guy that I've been riding up the draft board a little bit when I'm drafting, but Zay Flowers is another one. Certain guys, like it's not even just rookies though. It's also guys that are free agents or impending free agents that as soon as they sign, they're going to jump up the draft board. Lamar, even if it's a half a round, you're going to see him jump up. So that's like my favorite thing to do this time of year is to just get the value on the guys that are going to jump up throughout the March and April and May cycle.
And I think when you combine that with like, God, I got to find a synonym for archetype, because I definitely use that term way too much. But like when you combine that with the guys who could rise up, the reason you're targeting them is not just right. I'm not just trying to get closing line value, but it's because if something happens, they are going to be better than what their current cost is, right? Like something could change for Lamar, and now he's not going behind Justin Fields anymore. Like it's silly that he goes behind him anyway, but he's going to jump these guys because his situation will improve. The uncertainty will go away, right? Same thing for Zay. We're like, once Zay goes in the first round to like probably a good offense, he goes in the late first or something like what if he goes to the Bills? what if like these are realistic outcomes, and the floor outcome for a Zay and a Lamar, like the floor is incredibly high. Like nothing's going to happen to where you don't want them ever on your team. Well, I guess the Will Fuller situation for Lamar would be the only one, but that's clearly not that realistic when you combine it with the archetypes that they are, right? Young, talented rookie wide receiver that's like probably a first round pick. Lamar Jackson, freaking former MVP, best rushing quarterback almost of all time. When you combine like the archetypes with those guys and you're potentially getting value, it's just those guys are such smashes at this point in the offseason.
Okay, I know we didn't want to force.
If we're betting on Garrett Wilson gaining value from a Jets move, I also really like Elijah doing the same thing with Elijah Moore.
Okay. Well, let's do it. There was something that we could have done and got Elijah Moore, but
Oh, I see it now. Yep, you're right.
you've ruined it.
Well, that's okay. We'll see. Yeah, I'm sure people are smart enough to figure it out, but we'll see. We'll see if they are.
But no, I agree with the Elijah Moore thing. I do. Lamar, I know he doesn't like sustain pass catchers, yada yada yada. New offense that could change. Yeah, Jared Goff in the 9th round. I love it. I love it. I love best ball.
Sorry, I'm sorry, Toast. If you're in here, I apologize. This is not personal. Well, I guess it technically is kind of personal. There goes Waller. I know it was Waller that you were looking for. I don't mind taking another shot on a rookie wide receiver. No, thank you on Jamal Williams.
Yeah, Jesus.
Oof.
Yeah, grab Downs.
I think it's Downs. Yeah, I think it's Downs. Yeah, Waller. We probably should have. That's my fault. Probably should have done Waller and then Elijah Moore. But
and Waller isn't like the scenario we were talking about earlier, where we're just trying to fill in the tight end spot. It's Waller just dropped like a round and a half or something like that in this draft. We are kind of
and he fit.
Yeah, he fit on the team that we're building. It made a ton of sense to grab him there. I was trying to get you to it, but you had already started Elijah Moore. And I didn't want us to miss him on that point.
For the 3rd year in a row, my eyes got fixated on Elijah Moore, and I couldn't draft anyone else. surely it won't fail this year. Yeah.
But for us, it's the Arrested Development. I mean, how did it work out for all those people? Well, it failed miserably, but it could work for us.
Oh God.
Such a great show.
So Toast, again, love you. But like, I know Jared Goff had a good year. We all love the Lions, our Lions. But like, he's the cheaper, like Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence. Like, you're just paying because like the uncertainty of, I guess, the later guys, right? You're just paying for 1 year where he was pretty good. But like, even then, he wasn't like that amazing for fantasy. He was just like fine. And you're just paying this crazy premium for him. I mean, I feel the same way about Tua. Like, Tua picked 91. Like, I was taking Tua last year when he was in the 130s and 140s and stuff. He clearly doesn't have the upside to, win anything really for you. He had one big game, right, against the Ravens or whatever. Like, those guys can't win you anything. You're just paying a premium for the comfiness of picking them, right? They're the Dawson Knox of quarterbacks.
Yeah, it's also the panic portion of the draft where people are looking at and they don't have the quarterback and they don't want to get locked out and they're grabbing. I don't think I think Toast is definitely Dennis in the draft, and it's not us knocking you. I think it's more a reflection of what the drafts are right now. It's not like you went out of your way to grab him. That's where he's going. Right. And I understand that. And just where he's going is probably wrong. Is the point. It's not a personal attack. It's what these drafts are. Basically.
And he mentions that he has Amon-Ra. But like, one thing that I think is generally a mistake that people make is forcing, like, you still have to treat the quarterback as the quarterback. Just because you have one of his teammates, it actually doesn't really make the quarterback any more appealing. It feels like it does. Like, oh, this quarterback's better because I have Amon-Ra. It's like, Amon-Ra is Amon-Ra. We saw this for years, right, with like Jimmy G. The Niners were always awesome picks and crushed. Debo like broke fantasy 2 years ago. George Kittle has broken fantasy. Ayuk's been great. CMC was great. And the 49ers quarterbacks are still not helpful in best ball. Jimmy, Purdy popped up a little bit more, but it was like 20 points or 25 points. Jimmy was posting like 13 fantasy points when they were scoring 40. It's like the quarterback doesn't, it's the least important part of the stack is the quarterback. So you still need to treat the quarterback a little bit individually.
Yep. And we are back on the clock here where we are not seeing any orange. We are only seeing purple and green off the top of the draft board.
Good God. If we're interested in more wide receivers, I actually kind of like Dobbs, the freaking Sky again. I'm just gonna. Any of these running backs that you like though?
Do you like
Eli Mitchell?
Gainwell?
I want to take Gainwell actually. We had a good conversation maybe last week about Gainwell in the chat, and you're paying a little bit for it, but like there is a scenario where he just inherits this lead back. And again, people are like, oh, well, he's never going to be the workhorse. Like, well, yeah, he goes in the 11th round. I'm not betting on him getting 95% of the touches, but he already was playing on passing downs in this offense. And he already got a lot more goal line touches than you would ever think for a guy his size. It's like, so what if he picks up, 50% of what Miles Sanders did and keeps his old stuff? Like, that's a smash on the Eagles. So I want to have a little bit of him. The price is not amazing, but I want to have some of him.
But it's not prohibitive either. Like 11th round, we're still like starting to fire darts at that point. So if we're going to fire a dart, I like firing a dart on what could be the highest scoring offense in the league.
Exactly.
Right. And a guy that's going to be on the field a ton for them. I almost like Sky more than I like Romeo Dobbs on this
I'm
team.
totally down to take Sky.
Just because that wide receiver room is such a question mark this year. We do see him get on the field some. I think it's like a low probability bet, but again, Romeo Dobbs feels like a sort of a low probability bet as well. And if I'm going to bet on the Chiefs or the Packers, I'm just going to bet on the Chiefs type of deal. Totally. It's close. It's absolutely close. And I don't hate either. One of the other, I do like Gibson. I know you have Gibson start. I do like taking a shot on Antonio Gibson here and there, but after we grabbed Gainwell, I'm glad we went wide receiver there.
Yep.
Max Sauce is in the chat. I'm pretty sure he's drafting from the 5 spot, and his team has already been thrown out because he drafted David Montgomery in the 11th round. So congratulations for playing and goodbye.
At least when you drafted David Montgomery on the Bears in years past, you knew that like he's going to play. This is free agent David Montgomery. Like he couldn't have been less sexy when he was on the Bears, and now he's going to land as like a backup. It's like a backup somewhere.
He's going to be Jamal Williams this year. Watch, he's going to be the guy. He's going to go over to the Chargers. Everyone on that freaking team is going to do all the work. He's going to land in the end zone 12 times for 700 yards, and we're going to be like, why weren't we drafting David Montgomery? And then we're going to look at it and be like, yeah, because he sucked. He's just fat and he fell in the end zone.
Okay, I have it now. This is it. This is what's happening for David Montgomery. He's coming back to the Bears. Okay. But he's gonna play in the first preseason game. Everybody else is gonna sit out, right? It's gonna be whoever the fuck the Bears backup quarterback is, right? Everybody else is. It's gonna be Josh Jacobs part 2. He's coming back. The Bears are gonna improve on offense. He's gonna be the man, and they're just gonna run the shit out of the ball again. But this is like Josh Jacobs, but if they had like a rushing quarterback, like in an awesome rushing offense, he is totally gonna pull a Josh Jacobs on us. And just, to be fair, Josh Jacobs is a little better than Montgomery, but Montgomery's like not a terrible runner. He just runs like a 4.7, so there's no juice.
He ran a 4.7 last year. He's going to run a 5.7 this year.
He is, fat shaming. We are not above this. I will just put that out there.
Yeah,
definitely definitely not above this.
Yeah, you're not getting. There's no safety at this channel. Also, he could be the guy you need in January. No, he's never been the guy you need in January. You've never needed David Montgomery in January.
This is also my favorite, that we make fun of it. He's like, oh, you guys are so silly. And the defense mechanism is, what if he's the guy you need? It's like, okay, like that's literally what could be my answer for everything best ball related. But what if he scores 3 touchdowns in week 17? You're like, this guy's a fucking terrible pick. Well, but what if he crushes in week 17? Oh yeah, you're right. Like I can't fucking argue with you when you say, what if he's the guy you need in week 17? Like, sure, yeah, I guess anybody could be the guy you need in week 17 if that's the argument.
All right, we are coming up. You see Donta Foreman go in the 13th round, which I understand and also hate.
Yeah, he was like not getting drafted to start these, and now what Deuce Staley said, like, oh, it's a priority. Deuce Staley's the running back coach. It's not like he makes the fucking decisions on who is coming back, but he kind of had a quote that, like, you know, they need to bring Foreman back or want to bring Foreman back or whatever. And so now everybody's like rushing to draft him, which is very sad because I love Foreman and I liked him when he was going, you know, in the 19th round.
Deuce Staley is a guy that we would have loved in best ball 20 years ago. People would have been all about Deuce Staley so long ago. God, I'm so old. How many people in the chat do you think even remember Deuce Staley playing football?
I think we have an audience that is fairly similar to us in terms of age and such. Herzig just took Zeke right in front of us. God,
speaking of old and fat.
In the one, yeah, I will. Zeke is the reason why we do fat shaming on this channel. Any of these guys that I have in the queue here, I don't really want to take Derek Carr, to be totally honest with you.
You want to take a shot on Shark?
Yes,
going somewhere?
Yeah, I like it.
I like his skill set, and
he's like the best free agent wide receiver, which is sickening to say out loud, but he probably is the prize of the class.
Did you see? So it might have been more like localized here, but they were talking about what Jacoby Myers might get for a contract, and I vomited my entire ride to work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That they're saying he's going to get the Christian Kirk deal, and I'm like, it's Jacoby Myers. Like, what are we doing? What is happening right now?
It's crazy. All right. Meyer went. Okay, so
I like Harris.
I like Damian Harris. I also like Gesicki. I don't think either of them come back to us. Gesicki also a free agent at tight end, and I like him in like these, you know, punt tight end builds.
Grab Gesicki then, because we are pretty stacked at running back for the most part.
I think this is a good spot to kind of start dipping your toes into those tight ends, right? It's where Meyer, but Meyer, I don't know about Taysom, but if you like Taysom, obviously Gesicki. Again, don't really love Higbee, but if you like Higbee and want to include him in these types of bills, I think that's fine too. Everett, I think, is probably going to get cut. So he's probably my least favorite here. But then again, you get into McBride and Johnson and Hurst and all that. I think it's a really good range for the tight ends.
Did I just see Kenny Pickett in the 13th round? Like, cause he's just a guy that's not on my radar. So when I saw it, I was Odell Beckham. Oh my God, what are we doing, people? What are we doing? What is happening here? I understand that like times are tough and there's not a lot of great values and picks around, but
this is a very interesting collection of players. Obviously, just, you know, you can't really screw up the 101, but then you get, you know, 40-year-old running back in the second round. But then we go back to a young guy, another reasonably young guy, Judy. Then we got to jump to Dalvin, another old as shit running back, old as shit Mike Evans. Oh, and then rookie. And Kirk Cousins, you know, the least appealing mid-range quarterback of all time. Dalton Schultz, shit tight end who's a free agent. I mean, if he goes back to Dallas, obviously, I think he's fine. But Russ, and then back to rookie Bryce Young, and then on to a cripple, you know, the guy who hasn't touched the football field in 2 years or whatever. Very interesting collection of players there.
Yeah, Odell is the definite guy, and I loved Odell when he was younger, but he's definitely the guy that's going to sign with a team and wash out by the middle of the season and just be completely done with football. Right.
Yes, 100%.
He might even be the Patriots bring in like this old superstar name to camp almost every year, and then like they just never make the team and they end up retiring. Like there was Reggie Wayne, and there was like I think we had Ocho Cinco here for a camp.
Ocho Cinco, yep. Mm-hmm.
Right. Like, and they just never end up making the team. So maybe Odell will come here for camp for like 2 weeks and then just retire.
Odell is, remember all the Julio discourse last summer? Everybody just pounding the table. No offense to you, using the same reasoning that you were using earlier. Once he signs, imagine not taking Julio in the 18th. Once he signs, he's going to go up to like the 10th round, which of course he did. And unfortunately, the problem with that equation is that it doesn't matter how much you rise if you can't score any fantasy points and you're old as shit and you can't stay on the field. And that's what Odell is.
Listen, me and Corain will always have that moment on stream together where we victory lap the shit out of Julio Jones. We were on stream when it happened, and we were both so happy. And you can't take that away from me and Pat. Is all.
Oh
I'm
my
gonna
God.
say.
We told you once he landed on the Bucks, it's a smash. And the motherfucker caught like 14 passes on the entire season.
Yeah, but they were great 14 passes.
Really good. Yeah, really good for a 50-year-old out there. I do got to say.
Yeah. I cannot get over the current QB ADP. It's so gross. You guys are disgusting for taking these players.
This did make me laugh too. Zeke is at 153 is so cheap for a hyper fragile. That's true. It's definitely very fragile when you draft.
There's a lot of hyper fragile in that build.
Yes. I think if Zeke's on the team, it's instantly hyper fragile because he's fat and out of shape. And
there's one donut away from breaking the fragile scale that he's standing on.
Exactly. I like I don't totally love Jordan Love, but Richardson and Howell here, I do really like. I think that they're two of my favorite late round.
We got Dotson,
right? Yes, we do. Let's do that.
So
let's do Howell to pair with Dotson. Then we're pretty good. I mean, Lamar and Howell's pretty sexy.
Yeah, I like that.
Quarterback. And I know some people, I think it was in the Discord also, mentioned, which if you're not in the Spike Week Discord, 100% free, crazy sicko best ball community, literally just grinding conversation about best ball in year round, February, March, doesn't matter what time of year you want to talk best ball. That is the place to be. And there were some, people brought up, because I really like Howell, and just the fact that, he's going to get the first shot is kind of what they said, right? They didn't say like, oh, we're guaranteeing he's our starter in week 1. I think that's mostly just a formality. They don't have a lot of unless, like, are they really going to do the veteran retread thing again that they keep trying? Like, what's the point of that? So this late, I think Howell makes a lot of sense. I'm going to star one of my favorite rookie running backs, Kendre, but I also think Penny is decent.
I was going to bring up Penny, but if you like Kendre Miller, I am fine because I think our build allows us to take the shots on the rookies here.
Yeah, we're pretty good.
With ETN, Jones, Dobbins, Gainwell.
I like Penny, and I like a lot of these running backs back here, but Penny is like strictly a contingent play, right?
Yeah.
You need him to. Penny has oddly went from backing up Chris Carson and being a contingent play to then smashing and being the starter in front of Ken Walker. And now he's backing up Ken Walker. And in the same scenario, we saw him 2 years ago. And all he does is produce when he's out there. It's just that he's really just a contingency play. And so he makes a lot of sense. I mean, Kendre makes sense in plenty of builds too, but I think Kendre has the outs to like week 1 starter on a good team. And he's just he's just awesome for fantasy, whereas Penny doesn't really have that. So I think with our team, I like the Kendre swing, but I like Penny too. So it's not anything negative about him.
Yeah, I think we could have went either way with this team because we do have the power to start off the season riding some of the other guys, and then hope Penny just kind of gets on the field a little bit more. We're starting to see some of these tight ends go. We see Bellinger, Jawan Johnson, Dalton Kincaid in the 16th round, which is where we need to start thinking about. There's so many guys still. I'm just like still so fine with tight end.
I'm gonna use some of these my favorite guys. A little concerned about who I have no idea who it's going to be in Dallas if Schultz leaves. So that's like part of the concern is not only does Schultz need to leave, you need to nail who it is. And we saw that with Jarwin versus Schultz. People will tell you that, again, pound the table and say they knew that it was going to be Schultz, but it was, it was probably more like 60-40 Schultz or 70-30 Schultz.
You do this
so it's easy.
Every stream, Erik.
Easy to easy to get wrong. But look, the 20-round drafts. We can only spend a few minutes talking before we get to the 20-round drafts because they take goddamn forever.
They take so long. But it's fun. It's fun to talk through it. It's fun to trash on all these shit teams I'm seeing these guys draft.
Exactly.
When
It's
taking
also
these
fun.
old
It's also
fucks
fun
early.
to spend that 30 minutes talking about how you love late round quarterback and letting you talk me into a fucking quarterback with the 39th overall pick.
It was my game plan all along.
I do like this team though.
No, it's Lamar is the guy in that range though.
Mhm.
Like he's the guy in that 5th round range to grab, in my opinion. I think he's the only one to grab in that range.
Yes, I agree. And we talked about that too.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm the DFS touts that tell you this is their favorite stack and they end up underweight on them. We didn't do one of those.
Oh,
Any of
baby,
these
we
tight
are not
ends or
those
any
guys.
no. We just tell you to play MVS and DFS every week and
get it right once. And he goes
One
off
time.
at fucking Super Bowl or the AFC Championship game or whatever it was.
I really like Pierre Strong. I don't know how your Patriots fandom feels about him or one of the tight ends.
I like Pierre Strong, and then just
let's
pound tight end.
Let's do him. Yeah. Oh boy. Okay, got it. And then we got tight end and one luxury pick, and what do we got here? 2, 6, 8. There will definitely be 3, and then we can toss that last pick into any of the running back, wide receiver, or tight end buckets, pending how we feel here. What do you like? Who do you like in these tight ends, amongst these tight ends?
I like Likely, especially with Lamar, right? Because there's a chance that he does go back to Baltimore. And I just think Likely has a chance of being the top guy there. I know it's not the God damn it, I hate his last name. It's not the most likely outcome, but I think it is a possibility. Even with Mark Andrews there, it's like, and even he doesn't have to be, is the other thing. He can still be a very productive player for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I like Likely a lot.
I'm totally cool with Likely. The nice thing that about Likely is there are probably thin paths, but there are paths to some usefulness, some useful standalone value. Small, not anything crazy, but it's also possible that they do, if they're not able to add wide receivers, I mean, shit, they need somebody that can catch some passes, and he's clearly, I guess third definitely after Andrews and then Bateman. He proved that he was good last year, so theoretically there could be some real standalone value, but like I don't want to say we never. Rarely does the industry ever consider the contingent value for something like a tight end. And he has probably some of the best contingent value of any player in fantasy football.
Yes.
Given what he becomes as a tight end if something happens to Andrews. So like I don't know.
Loading him in DFS like on certain weeks this past year. We were just 100. Like, yep, just taking Likely. That's it.
It was week 18. He went for 100 yards. He caught like 10 passes or whatever. And he was like 3K. And he was like not monstrous chalk. It's like, I don't know what it is about Likely that people just aren't a fan of or something like that. But like I had a shit DFS year to be clear. But week 18 was really good. And he was probably like the reason. He's like 15% owned. And I'm like, what did I miss? I'm like, did I miss something? Like, why is he not the stone chalk? And he had like 15 targets. So like that's what you see if something happens to Andrews. He's like the focal point of the passing game. And like that just doesn't exist, that tight end, certainly not in the 16th, 17th, 18th round.
We have Mac in the chat saying, not gonna lie though, your guy's tight end room is ass. Spoiler alert, everybody's tight end room is ass because this position sucks. Nobody has a good tight end room. It doesn't exist.
There are 11 teams that didn't draft Travis Kelce, and all of your tight ends, everybody's tight ends suck. Some people just paid more for theirs to suck.
Yeah. That's what we've been talking about. Any chance Hunter Henry has positive regression with better OC with experience? Yeah. Especially since they don't have any wide receivers on the team right now. It's Tyquan. I think Tyquan Thorne's the only guy signed to the roster right now. If I
is Devontae, I can't remember about. I know obviously Jacoby Myers was a free agent. I can't remember with Bourne and Devontae and stuff, but like the only one that you care about is Tyquan. And yeah, I think Hunter Henry is another. he's a good pick back here. I think he's a really good pick, and just another guy. And like same thing, there's no risk on Hunter Henry. I mean, he might suck, but like Hunter Henry in the 17th round, he's gonna play. He's gonna be out there. So like, there's really no risk on him. It's kind of like all profit.
Yeah, I do. I do like Hunter Henry this year. I wasn't super excited about them bringing back Bill O'Brien as the OC, but he's still a million times better than what they were rolling out there with Matt Patricia and freaking Joe Judge last year. Like, how you have the Three Stooges doing your OC duties is just absolutely asinine to me. Yeah, it's just gross. We see Alberto go in the 19th round, another guy that I wouldn't mind taking a swing on. Don't do it, Herzig. All right. There's going to be some bad words said to Herzig. If we got to take Henry now.
Absolutely got to take Henry now. I think I like Conklin as well back here. I think we took Conklin on the last one. Another kind of Jets play. We also are a little loaded up on Jets. We probably don't need another Jet, but he's a similar guy back here. Like, I mean, I honestly haven't reviewed Tyler Conklin's contract, but my guess is he's going to be there. He's going to be the tight end for the Jets. Pretty productive player. And we're betting on all these other Jets, so why would we not bet on the tight end, the shittiest position? I think he's a pretty good pick. Like Hunter Henry in the 19th round, like Tyler Conklin, the starting tight end for what could be an Aaron Rodgers offense. Like there's just a lot of guys that you can siphon through back here. Do you want to do the 4, or is there somebody you want to take a flyer on elsewhere?
I mean, I don't like Jerick McKinnon, but 20th round Jerick McKinnon.
There's a couple of running backs.
Jerome Ford. I like Jerome Ford in the 20th.
Jerome Ford is a guy that I'm like, that motherfucker. Jerome Ford goes. So we don't need to talk about him. We can take. I mean, we can take McKinnon. It is kind of crazy that McKinnon is back here.
I mean, it's not like a guy that I'm going out of my way to draft, but when we can get him as our last pick,
he's the last pick.
Like,
let's just take him.
How do you not take Jerick McKinnon?
I haven't really taken him because, again, at once, Jesus Christ, these guys are fucking nuts. 176 is like, maybe a little steep for, like, we don't even know if he's going to be on the team. I don't know what's going to go on with McKinnon. But in the 20th round, we saw the ceiling.
Yeah.
He's dropping 30 fantasy points every week. Like,
give me one of those games in the 20th round.
In the 20th round. Like, okay, I'm in for that in the 20th.
We see Herzig go to the dead body pile and take Allen Robinson.
This is funny. You guys won't go five tight ends. It's true. I'll be honest. A lot of the times, I would have considered the other tight end here. I don't hate like Musgrave and Washington and stuff, but usually some of those other guys are still there. The Conklins and a lot of the right, like Henry, Conklin. You might be able to get 4 of Alberto, right? Ferguson. A lot of those guys are there still in the 20th. A lot of the times, and they weren't in this draft. And so I'm like, Musgrave, fine, but like I don't know. I think we're better off with Gesicki, Likely, and Henry. I think it's a pretty good blend of tight ends too.
I also think that the Henry thing kind of goes to what we were talking about earlier. And although I am a Patriots fan, I usually don't advocate for them on fantasy stuff for very good reason. But when you can get Henry and you can get Mac Jones super duper late, get that stack like towards the back end, I don't hate doing something like that as like when you're doing late, if you're doing a double late round QB tight end build, that's kind of an easy way to play that situation as well.
Yep. I totally agree. I can pull up the team really quickly and we can run through it and then we'll get out of here. Yeah. So after saying I don't want to draft any early quarterbacks, we went with Lamar as our QB1, Sam Howell as our QB2. Pretty fun running back room. I'll be totally honest with you. Travis Etienne, Aaron Jones, J.K. Dobbins, Kenneth Gainwell, Kendre Miller, Pierre Strong, and Jerick McKinnon. It's kind of funny because like it's a lot of like veterans, but outside of Jones and McKinnon are quite old. But it's like I think that there's a lot of ways you can go with these types of backs and stuff. You can sprinkle in, right? You want to take that. Maybe you like Kamara or something like that, or Mixon. There are people pushing for Mixon. You can sprinkle in those veteran backs. It's just not making them a staple, and then finding ways to build in, right? Toss your Kendre in there. ETN, I think, has a ton of upside. Dobbins, etc. You can really blend some pretty sick running back rooms together right now. And then wide receiver, Devontae Adams was our first-round pick. Garrett Wilson was our second-round pick. One with Jahan. Went quite a while without another wide receiver. Mm-hmm. But I really like Dotson. I like Dotson's price, and obviously stacking him up with Howell is pretty fun. Zay Flowers, Elijah Moore, Josh Downs, Sky Moore, and DJ Chark. Again, a really fun blend. Couple rookies, Garrett Wilson breakout, but like the dependability of Devontae, right? I think Garrett Wilson's actually pretty dependable too. Lots of upside shots, but like just enough of I think Dotson's like dependable, even though he's only a second-year guy. So he's like upside with a little bit of floor as well. And then our late-round tight ends, Mike Gesicki, who I really like as a free agent. Again, if anybody didn't know, he is a free agent. And so I think he's got a really good chance to land somewhere and be the Evan Ingram or something like that of this year. Isaiah Likely, who we talked through a lot, and Hunter Henry, who we talked through a lot. Another pretty fun blend, I think, of tight end. So I really like this team, even though we spent a third-round pick or whatever on a quarterback.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing with Mike Gesicki too is, wherever he's going, he's being brought in to be a pass catcher. Like, that's who Mike Gesicki is. He is a pass catching tight end. He will be going to a team that needs a pass catching tight end. And don't be shocked if you see him go to. I mean, we don't want him to get buried there, but he could go to the Chiefs. They could run a lot of 2 tight end sets and like play Kelsey, Gesicki together, or Gray, Gesicki, and rest Kelsey somewhat. It's just, he's going to go to a team that's going to use his skills. And it's going to be, he might even go to the Jets. Who knows?
I mean, that's the thing, is it's the mystery box, right? Anything can happen with Mike Gesicki, but like you said, because of what he has a very specific skill set. He's the Liam Neeson, I guess. He has a very specific skill set that if someone adds him, they're going to use him as the receiver, right? He's been kind of miscast in Miami a little bit there. So we are going to get out of here. Apparently, oh my God, I wish I could show you these goddamn psychopath dogs, but it's time to get out of here. They got too much energy. It's time for a walk or something. Tomorrow, a little bit of a special Friday show because it's been a little bit of a chaotic week in terms of some of the shows. I want to make sure we're with you guys tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern, noon Central, the real time zone. I'm going to do a stream where instead of you guys are getting every stream under the sun, every YouTube channel under the sun is talking through the rookies, right? And quarterback rankings and all that different stuff, and the draft and the combine. We're going to do a little bit of something different. This is the Best Ball Sicko community. We're going to talk about kind of the state of best ball, the future of best ball. Where's best ball headed? What is the summer going to look like? What are the next few years going to look like? So if you have any questions, comments, feedback, anything else that was quick that you did that, by the way. Anything that you want to bring and kind of discuss about best ball as an industry, 1 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. That's when we'll be doing that. Anything else that you got before we get out of here?
No, I'm excited to draft more teams. I'm going to throw this at you on stream. I kind of want to do the offensive rankings again like we did last February. I know it's March, but doing that exercise really helped me like walk through teams a few times during the year and just kind of like get perspective on each situation. So I kind of want to do that again.
What we should do is if we do it early, come back after draft and free agency and just do one show where we just we don't have to break every team down, but be like, okay, this team was at the top. Yeah. Because we expected, right? Like the Jets might be at the top. Yeah. But like, what if they don't get any of these quarterbacks, then they'll plummet, and just kind of talking through how our expectations have shifted. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, that's it for me otherwise.
All right, guys. Thank you. This was a ton of fun. And I will see hopefully most of you tomorrow. If not, make sure you are in the Discord, and we got lots and